Welcome to Becoming Bridge Builders, a show where we explore stories and the wisdom of people who dedicate their lives to healing divides, building a more hopeful world. I am your host, Reverend Dr. Keith Haney. Today's guest is someone whose life reads like a blueprint for courageous, compassionate leadership at the highest levels. Dr. Zafra Lerman is a world-renowned chemist, visionary educator, human rights champion, and one of the most extraordinary peacemakers of our time. She is the founder and president of the Malta Conference Foundation, an organization that accomplishes what many believe is impossible, bringing scientists from nations in conflict, including Israel, Palestine, Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and many more, into the same room, working shoulder to shoulder on challenges that affect all humanity. Her work taps into the universal language of science to build trust, foster dialogue, and ignite collaboration across some of the world's deepest divides. Dr. Lerman's courage doesn't end with the classroom or the laboratory. For decades, she has risked her very own safety to advocate for persecuted scientists in the Soviet Union and China, walking through the dark alleys of Moscow, sometimes after midnight, to meet dissidents whose lives were in danger. Her story is one of bravery, creativity, unwavering commitment to dignity of every human life. We welcome her to the podcast. How you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
So glad to have you on. So glad to have you on, especially in this time, in this day and age, with what's going on around the world. So I'm look forward to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is tough. I'm going to ask you my favorite question, Doctor. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I ever received. I received many advices to be careful, but I usually ignored it. And the best piece of advice I received from my father since I was 6 years old is do your best to make the world a better place. And this he started writing to me notes since I was 6 years old.
Wow, what a powerful testimony. And you've lived out that piece of advice.
If that, I'm only sorry he died young and did not survive to see any of those.
Wow. So you've lived your life filled with scientific discovery and human risk. What first sparked your belief that science could be a pathway to peace?
Science is a very interesting subject. Science can prolong life, but science can cut life very short. You cannot build weapon of mass destruction without scientists, sadly. So therefore, I felt always that it's the responsibility of scientists to work towards peace because scientists contributed to the horrible weapon we have now in the world. And because science is an international language, like if you take a chemist in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and a chemist in Bethlehem on the West Bank, they can communicate the chemistry to each other without knowing each other's language or any language. And they will understand exactly what everybody is doing. So having this power of being international, in addition, science doesn't see religion, doesn't see border, doesn't see language, doesn't see culture, doesn't see nuances. Therefore, it's a good subject to work for peace. And therefore, I felt that science diplomacy can succeed where any other diplomacy failed.
I love that. That's very, very true.
Yeah.
Before we got on, we talked about the fact that you've lived life in some dangerous situations. You've seen conflict up close and personal. What experience convinced you that dialogue between individuals like you just described, even from opposite sides, can be more powerful than any political barriers that we see out there?
First, I grew up I grew up in shelters. Therefore, I describe in my book the memoir that just came out that I'm ready to show you. It's titled Human Rights and Peace, a Personal Odyssey, but it's a memoir that describes growing up in a developing country and the values I got there. Eh, since I was born, I was in shelters. So living this kind of life always made me feel that I have to do something from a very young age. And I grew up in Israel. Around me, our neighbors were Arabs. We were always exchanging things. There was nothing that would, in my dream as a child, would tell me that anybody is an enemy. I think that human beings are not born to fight with each other. I think people can live in peace. And the fact that we can bring under one roof for 5 days all these people that their governments are hostile to each other, that they are fighting each other. But these people have something in common. It's science. And they want to work with their science for the betterment of humankind. And when you see at the end of 5 days, the hugging and kissing and tears that are coming from people saying goodbye, you think you just had a family reunion. And the question is, why could these people that science unites them, why can it not be spread for the rest of the people?
So
Therefore,
go ahead.
science diplomacy can do miracles.
I love that. So let's talk about your Malta conference. What was the brain trust behind that? What was your goal in putting that conference together?
I chaired for 26 years for the American Chemical Society the Committee of Scientific Freedom and Human Rights. So therefore I was in the Soviet Union, in China, Peru, Guatemala, all the countries that had terrible abuses. Cuba I was many times to work on human rights. But then came September 11. And I persuaded my committee that we have to change now to the Middle East and use our power to try to work towards peace. But we had to persuade the board of the American Chemical Society to approve it. So think about that. We come out of September 11, and it's the midst of the intifada, of the uprising of the Palestinians. Suicide bombs are everywhere, on the buses, in restaurants, in cafes. You cannot go anywhere without taking a risk of a suicide bomb. So it was a very tough period, and I thought that the right thing is for us to try to work to use science diplomacy as a bridge to peace in the Middle East. In the beginning, when I brought it in front of the board, they thought that I'm a little bit crazy. In the midst of all that, to suddenly have a conference like that sounded like almost mission impossible. But then I managed to persuade everybody that it's a great idea, and the board approved it, and we started working towards it. I, in the beginning, thought that we will have one conference and we'll show it's possible. There are few rules in this possible that in this conference that makes it so successful. First rule, no accompanying members. So nobody dilutes the interaction and nobody interferes in anything. This gives the people the time to be all the time together and concentrate on developing collaboration and friendship that can overcome the chasms of distrust and intolerance. The other rule was that everybody is equal. Very important in the Middle East. So everybody stays in the same hotel. The graduate student and the Nobel Prize. We always have Nobel Prize people with us. And the people are together all the time. They eat together. They are in workshops together. Everything interactive. We have social events, everybody together. Tours. The social events are as important as the scientific events because really the connection is in social events. And I thought we'll have it one and I'll prove that it's possible. We had it in such a tough period with the Intifada and all that, but in the end, the people voted to continue. They said, we cannot have just one. We have to continue to have a momentum to involve more scientists. And we continue to do it. Why Malta? Malta is an island. And I felt that an island is safer than a mainland. You cannot drive to an island. So I thought from security point of view, an island will be safer. Another thing that by that stage, direct flights to Malta were very few. We were only from London, Rome, and Frankfurt. So it took really a whole day to get there. So my idea was that it wouldn't be worse for any terrorist to spend so much time to get to Malta and kill a lot of Muslims and few Israelis, not worth it. Therefore, Malta was chosen, and this is why the name is Malta Conferences. Malta by that stage was not part of the EU, so everybody could get a visa upon landing. But after Malta II, they joined the EU, and from there started the problem with visas that is the toughest problem to have a conference like that. There is no country that likes the whole group. This country doesn't want this countries to come in and this country, and I describe it in a chapter in my book that is titled From Mission Impossible to Mission Possible. It shows for every conference all the ingenuity that you had to use and almost become a spy in few situations in order to get a visa for everybody. So it's like each conference as the visa can be a movie by itself, a movie. It's unbelievable, the stories there. So, and it started only after Malta joined the EU and you started needing a Schengen visa. But then we moved to other places. But I went to Washington. I went from one embassy to the other to see which ambassador will promise me a visa for everybody. And I remember it was 2015. The Moroccan ambassador said everybody will get a visa. Yeah, till 3 months before the conference, he informed me that Syria and Iraq will not get a visa. They got in the last minute, but it's all described in a book because it's impossible to describe it in a very short period of time, all the work that went in order to get a visa for Iraq and Syria. In addition, we are all volunteers. We don't have any paid employee. I have students that work with me that I pay them for my own pocket, and I am just a emeritus professor, emerita, excuse me, professor, but it's important to involve them, and I cannot do everything by myself. So it's all a bunch of volunteers, and every penny we raise goes towards the Malta conferences. But it's very hard to raise for peace. There is a lot of money for war, for building weapon of mass destruction. For peace, there is not so much money, very hard to get. So, like my book, all the proceeds go towards the Malta Conference. I don't take a penny of that. So, as we sell more books, everybody helps the peace in the Middle East if you buy them.
So tell us about your book, Human Rights and Peace.
It's titled Human Rights and Peace, a personal odyssey, but it really starts with my childhood, how I grew up in shelters, how I loved the shelter because there were a lot of kids. And by the age of 3, I thought to go to a shelter is the greatest thing. I would cry when the siren told us to go out of the shelter because I had only one brother, 10 years older. So he was not a partner to play with. And there I had a lot of kids to play. So for me, it was very, very happy place to be. But I grew up in shelters since I was born, so having wars is not new to me. It explains all that, and it explains the values that I got from my father. Like, for example, for my 6th birthday, he put an envelope with a letter in my shoe. So when I get up, I'll find it in the shoe. And I opened the letter. The letter said, "Today is your 6th birthday. I hope you will grow up to be loyal to your nation, to your country, and to your family." Look at the order. Not the family first, your nation, your country, and your family. And for your birthday, I'm giving you this amount of money as a present. You will divide it to 3. 1/3 will go to the children that are orphans, that went through the Holocaust and lost their parents. 1/3 you will donate to the national funds to plant trees. I, I was born in Israel. I did not say it. They sought to plant trees because it was arid land. So to plant trees, 1/3 you can do what you want. And this is a letter that he gave me by the age of 6. So when you grow up with these values, you know that you have to do something to make the world a better place.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the things that have come out of the Malta Conference. What breakthrough or scientific revelation stands out from or defining moment from one of the Malta conferences?
Okay, so let me tell you first, the Malta Conference is still now the only platform in the world that brings this all the countries under one roof. Now we have, in addition, Morocco and Pakistan. They are not in the Middle East. They are Muslim countries, but they are not in the Middle East, but they requested to participate. Pakistan said they want to learn the model in order to maybe doing between Pakistan and India, a Malta model. And Morocco wanted, because we were in Morocco, and they heard about that, so we have now a delegation from there too. Now, what came? Collaborations are very important on issues that one country cannot solve. It's arid land, the Middle East. Not enough water. The aqueducts are underground where the water goes. But they don't recognize all the lines the British put there to divide into countries, you know. They go through all of them. Therefore, in order to work on the water issue, you need collaboration. On air pollution, the countries are so close to each other that if one country will work on their air pollution, one wind the wrong direction, it was nothing. So people have to work together on different issues. In addition, because we value so much science education, we have a workshop on science and technology education in all levels to bring all the countries to be on a higher level in science through education. So what came out of that? Collaboration on water is going on between 5 countries that are related to Jordan, Palestine, Israel, Egypt, and Kuwait participated in that. In education, we had a collaboration of almost all the countries working together. One of the professors did an online class on nanotechnology that he did it in Arabic. So all the Arab countries could understand it. He also is from the Technion, Israeli Institute of Technology. He did this class. There is Al-Quds University, is a very, very good Palestinian university. But the authorities, the academic high authorities of Israel don't recognize, or at least did not recognize by that stage, the degrees of Al-Quds. As a result of Malta, the president of Al-Quds and the president of the Weizmann Institute of Science, that is listed as one of the 10 best research institutes in the world, from where I have my PhD, my pride and joy, these two presidents met after the Malta Conference because the two delegations came to their presidents and asked that there will be a joint meeting, and they signed an agreement that graduates from Al-Quds University will be able, despite the fact that their degree is not recognized, will be able to do PhDs at the Weizmann Institute. And we have already a few of those that are teaching in Al-Quds that got their PhD. We had even a professor from Al-Quds come and do a whole year sabbatical with a colleague he met at Malta at the Weizmann Institute. So there are many, many more outcomes. Water from Gaza, the water in Gaza is very contaminated, practically because of their own fault, because they throw the garbage and all that. So a university, Al-Azhar University in Gaza and Technion in Israel work together on samples to see exactly what is the problem and start working on cleaning their water. The people there are a family. You don't see the division. So anything that they can do together, they do together. They call themselves the Malta family. Like a new year, one person will start, "Dear Malta family, I want to wish you a happy new year." And then it goes and everybody signs on that. But they call themselves the Malta family. Now one of our Malta family, Omar Yagi, that is involved with Malta since its inception, his parents are Palestinians that moved to Jordan, so he was born and raised in Jordan. He's now in Berkeley, got in 2025 the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. So immediately all the Malta Conference, one of ours got the Nobel Prize, and he will be now the speaker in the next Malta Conference. If the war will end, it will not spoil it for us. because meanwhile all our countries are nobody has even air flights because of the missiles that are coming. So I hope that it will end and we can have our conference.
With what's going on now, how does this affect what you're trying to do, or what you, or the connections you already have?
It affects the communication, especially with Iran, because they take the internet down and then it comes to a halt. And now, because the conference is coming close, there is a lot of communication. There are abstract to review. There is results that you send and different registrations thing, but the communication is completely at a halt now. So it's a big problem for us. In addition, most of the countries don't have flights because the airlines are afraid of the missiles. And the worst thing that happened took us a long time to find a country that we felt will be safe and promised a visa for everybody. And we picked up Azerbaijan. Baku is in Azerbaijan, already paid for the hotel and all that. But Azerbaijan just was attacked by missiles and they stopped any flights now to Azerbaijan. So, and this might really scare a few people because we said we picked up the safest place and all that, and suddenly they were attacked. So for sure, I'm really shaky because the conference is supposed to be in May, and time is running fast.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine. I saw the airport in Azerbaijan was hit. So yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
The airport in Qatar was hit, a lot of it, but even if the airport was not hit, but everything around, the airplane would not go knowing that a missile is coming.
Right.
Nobody wants the missile hit them while they are in the air. So it's a big problem for us after a lot of work. And everybody says Malta is now more important than ever. And suddenly, I don't see an end. It looks like, in the beginning, Trump said few days. Then it was 2 weeks. 2 weeks are already over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So I hope it will really soon come to an end and we will have the conference and could discuss peace and collaboration.
I want to dig into that a little bit more. For people who are hearing this podcast for the first time, and you talk about science diplomacy as relatively unknown to the public, how do you explain that to those who are listening going, I've never heard of this before, but it sounds great. What is it exactly, if am I trying to wrap my mind around, for those who are
You
just
didn't
tuning
hear
in?
because it's a new term.
Right.
It's a new term. Before that, we used to say science as a bridge to peace in the Middle East, but suddenly it became a buzzword, science diplomacy. And really, there is diplomacy. To bring sides that are at war together is diplomacy. But here it's only science. You discuss the science and you discuss how you can solve problems together. I'll take a term from the atom bomb. In order to have an atom bomb, you need critical mass of uranium to start a chain reaction. In my book, I write, I need a critical mass of scientists to start a chain reaction for peace. Now, Nature magazine in England, that is the top magazine in the world in science, they reviewed my book. And then they sent every time like a newsletter with some summaries of article, and in the middle there is quote of the day. So one day they took the quote of the day for my book that I want the critical mass of scientists to start a chain reaction for peace, and then advertised my book. So, what is diplomacy? Diplomacy is that you sit together, you negotiate things, or you do things together. And meanwhile, every diplomacy that has to do with the Middle East failed. But we feel that because science doesn't see border, doesn't see language, doesn't see religion, doesn't see culture, doesn't see nuances, it's science. We feel that science diplomacy, we use our science for the diplomacy to solve the problem of water, to solve the problem of energy, to solve the problem of education that really a lot of countries need help. This is science diplomacy, and we feel that science diplomacy can succeed where other diplomacy fails because of the international language of science. We speak the same language, all of us.
I love that. So let's look ahead. You've dealing with a lot of global challenges, climate change, water distribution, disease. What do you think you've championed all those? What do you think is the most difficult challenge you want to tackle going forward?
The every subject is an emergency, because I said for years before I even started the Malta conferences that if a thirsty, uneducated, unemployed young person has nothing to lose by becoming a terrorist.
It's true.
Therefore, it's our obligation to make sure that everybody is not thirsty, is not hungry, has education, and has employment. Then they will not have to be even in gangs in Chicago. That is a big problem. If we could take all of them and really bring them, I'm talking about Chicago now, bring them to the level that they have education, that they can be employed, they will not go into the gangs just to kill and then be killed. But when
Yeah,
you don't have what to lose, it's a different story.
I love that. Can you think of one quality every peacemaker needs to cultivate?
One quality,
Yep.
understanding. You must understand everything about the people you want to form peace. Understanding means the religion, the nuances. If you cannot understand, when I went to Russia, I took Russian. When I went to the Soviet Union, as you know and understand more about the people you want to bring together, as you understand them more, understand the problem, you are more successful in achieving peace.
That's good. Because of things are so up in the air right now, I'd like to end with a good question for you. What is one moment in your life when hope surprised you?
When hope surprised me?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, maybe you were you didn't anticipate a situation where something hopeful came out of it, and it's like, oh, you were surprised by the positiveness of that particular experience.
Uh, I can tell you a few of them. I'll tell you one. I risked my life in the Soviet Union because everything I did after midnight in dark alleys, in dark attics was illegal, and I could every minute be arrested. But I did it in order to help dissidents that were in trouble or in jail or in hard labor in Siberia. And my purpose was to bring them to freedom. And one day, it's a funny story. One day I am in the American Chemical Society meeting in Miami Beach, and I get a phone call from two of the dissidents from the Soviet Union, and they say, "Hi," in half Russian, half English. Hi, this is Joseph and Vladimir. I said, oh, wonderful. Where are you? Are you having a good time? Where are you that you can call me suddenly? Because I just met them when I was there. Oh, they said, yes, yes, we are here. I said, where here? In Moscow? Oh, no, 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 here. I said, yes, but where is here? Are you in the US? They said, we are here. Are you in New York? We are here. I said, but please tell me, what does it mean here? I cannot understand. Here in the lobby to your hotel. I said, in the lobby to my hotel? I go down, and they said that they just arrived in another human rights group that I am on the board. It's an independent group. Gave them money and told them to go directly to me in Miami Beach because there is a big meeting of all the chemists and they will find already a job there. So they send them there, no money, nothing. Immediately I called my committee. In the beginning, I thought I have to give up my room, but I called the committee and the chair of the board, and I said, this is what I have. What do we do? So we looked at all the list of the hotel, and we found there was a hotel with a room and a kitchen and all that kitchen. Great. So one of my committee meeting people said, I'll go to the supermarket, buy all the food for them for the 5 days and put it in the refrigerator for breakfast and lunch. I took the program, and every day another division has a very fancy reception with a lot of food. So I said, I want you to write down because every day you belong to another division. Okay, organic, inorganic, biochemistry, and every night this will be your dinner because there is a lot of food there. But they said, yes, but we want to go to the placement center to interview for a job. Oh, this is more complicated. You need a badge. So the chair of the board ran and brought them badge, and registration to ACS is very expensive. So he waived it and they got the badge. So I go with them to the convention, to the placement, and they tell me they cannot go in. I said, what do you mean they cannot go in? It's only for members. Oh, I said, it's only for members. I took out the badge out of the plastic, erased the word non from each of them. I said, look, it says members. So the person said to me, listen, Zafra, I don't have the time to argue with you all day. You will win at the end. So, okay, let them in. So they went in. The next meeting was in Boston, and I'm going down the elevator, the escalator, and up the escalator, two chemists with their suit and tie. This is how you dressed in the ACS, with a attaché or something going up, and suddenly I hear, Zafra, Zafra, it's Joseph and Vladimir. Oh my God, we hugged, the kiss, they have a job, they got a job, they have everything. This was a great day in my life, but was with a lot of anxieties. But there were a lot of moments like that when somebody that was in hard labor in Siberia came out and came directly to me in Chicago. So there were look, during the war started. I took out immediately our participant from Gaza, that are Malta participant to Egypt. And I still am looking for a country for one family because he has young kids, but Egypt doesn't let them go to school. Egypt wants the people from Gaza to leave Egypt. But with all the world, I'm working on that day and night, I still did not find a country that will take this family and let the kids go to school. So there are a lot of, and sure, great thing is when you suddenly get the letter and it says the American Physical Society would like to tell you that you are getting the Andrei Sakharov Award for Human Rights for all. You don't want to be recognized, but it's nice to be recognized, or for my education when I got the Bill from Bill Clinton, the presidential award for education. This was another interesting. I was with my husband in Berlin in a conference that I had, and I get a call from the FBI because 36 guests were coming to this award. So they said, we want to tell you that all your 36 people passed security. I said, wonderful, thank you very much. They said, but we have one problem. I said, what's that? You did not pass security. I said, what? So all of them will be there, but not me. And they said, we postponed by 3 months the event to do a more detailed security on you and see if you can pass it. So at the end, I passed it. But in Berlin to get, but you didn't pass security. You cannot come to get presidential award. There are a lot of funny things like that, that they are all in my book.
Wow.
No,
So I like to ask my guests this question. What do you want your legacy to be?
that I achieved peace in the Middle East.
I love that. Where can people find your book so they can support the Malta Conference and learn more about what you do?
Right, so this is the title. You can repeat it, or I can say it.
Yeah, Human Rights and Peace, A Personal Odyssey.
It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes& and Noble, online. It's now in paperback, so it's reasonably. In the beginning, they sold it for $60. I even had to pay for that because I wanted to give presents, so I had to buy it. Today, the publishers are stingy.
They don't like giving books away, no.
No.
Where can people
So,
find you on social media?
social media, you can find me on LinkedIn, and it's always Zafra Lerman. I am on LinkedIn all the time, but I don't know. But the easiest is to get all this information. My website is zafralerman.com. The Malta website is Malta Conferences Foundation, all one word, .org. And for the education, it's lermaninstitute.org. And for the education, there are a lot of pictures in the book too, but the real videos where the student dance science and sing science, like a music student singing I have plenty of ozone, like I have plenty of nothing, and describing, or theater students that did a drama on the chemical bond and followed the godfather, but called it the bond father because it's the chemical bond. All that is on a YouTube on the lermaninstitute.org. And I'll give my email. It's my name, Zafra, is zafralerman.com.
Well, Dr. Lerman, thank you so much. Your life work reminds us that peace is not theoretical, it's practical, courageous, and deeply human. You've shown the world that even when governments can't talk, people still can. And when they do, bridges are built that outlast conflict. To our listeners, if this conversation touched you, here are 3 ways to act. Learn more about the Malta Conference Foundation and the groundbreaking work scientists are doing to build peace across borders. Share this episode with educators, students, leaders, and anyone who believes that dialogue can reshape the world. And 3, subscribe, rate, and follow Becoming Bridge Builders so you can continue elevating stories of courage, hope, and reconciliation. Until next time, go build a bridge to someone who stands on the other side of a divide. You may discover that collaboration brings up a single conversation. Thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
As well.